AITA for expecting my wife and her friends to respect my day of silence? I, 39M, led a very busy life at work. So once every year I pick a day where I spend the entire day in silence, without any gadgets or phones, and I spend the day in quiet contemplation. I have done this ever since I moved off to college. And this year, that day was yesterday. Now, normally on these days, my wife will leave me alone and find something to do. But her car was in the shop, and she had a trip planned and was going to the beach with her friends. So the day before yesterday I told her I was willing to take her and her friends and drop them off at the beach, thinking it would be a short trip. Except, it turns out that it was much farther away than I previously had thought. And there was a ton of traffic. So the trip ended up taking almost 3 hours. And the worst part of it was that her and her friends were very loud, rambunctious, and obnoxious throughout the drive, singing songs and chatting. And I couldn't say anything or stand up for myself because I had to be quiet. So as a result, my day of silence ended up getting ruined. Furthermore, I had to pick them up, so more of my time was wasted and ruined. And I couldn't think clearly as a result. This morning, I was really mad at my wife and I yelled at her. I told her that she had betrayed me and took advantage of me by not telling her friends to maintain a quiet environment in the drive and respect my day of silence, especially since I was doing them a favor. And she replied that she shouldn't have to, and what I'm asking for is ridiculous. Now she's not talking to me unless I apologize for blowing up on her. AITA? I respect your practice of taking a day of silence. I think that's an excellent practice. But, betrayed you, and took advantage of you. Really? A touch dramatic, don't you think? Your day of silence was ruined because your wife and her friends had fun in the same car as you. The absolute audacious nerve of them. It's a bit late to do this since you already decided to blow up at your wife over it. But what you should have done is say, "Hey hun, I'm glad you had such a fun time on the drive. You and your friends seem like you had a blast. My day of silence was kind of disrupted though. So just so you know, I'm gonna try again on this day instead. YTA. On your next day of silence, perhaps you should devote some meditation time to contemplating the question of why you get to have a day on which everyone caters to your whims, but your wife doesn't. You offered to drive them. You can't force them to be quiet just because it's something you do. And I couldn't say anything or stand up for myself because I had to be quiet. If you didn't say anything, then you have no right to be mad at them for not knowing. YTA. Info. Any reason you don't just, declare another day your silent day this year? YTA Sue, silent day, couldn't have waited one more sleep? You already agreed to take her and the friends, and you can't expect her and them to be entirely silent until dropped off like school-age children and their trunchable principal. Sounds like a scheduling conflict this year. So this day is chosen by you, at your discretion. Yes? You didn't think to simply reschedule your day of silence, since it's quite obvious that driving a group of friends to a beach is not conducive to quiet contemplation? YTA. Days of quiet contemplation are best had alone. I get a cabin by myself or go somewhere people don't know me. You really got into a car of women ready to go away for a beach trip and thought they'd be quiet? YTA. YTA. You're the one that offered to take her to the beach even though you knew it was your day of quiet. Or whatever. If you needed this day so badly, why didn't you let her use your car and you stayed at home? For you to say she betrayed you when you offered to take her is a bit dramatic. Also, if you are compiling all of your stress into one quiet day a year, then I suggest you find more outlets for stress relief, because that is not healthy, friend. YTA. You volunteered to do this. Why didn't you just give her the keys? Let her take your car and you spend the day alone in silence? YTA. You offered to take them. You offered to take them. Did you ask where they were going? How long the trip would take? Did you ask your wife to request silence? And did you honestly expect your wife and her friends to be silent on both trips during a fun beach day with friends? Did you at no point during the trip think, well, this hasn't worked, I'll pick another day instead? Quote, blowing up at your wife the next day was not okay. She did not betray you. And she did not disrespect you. Because, and I repeat, you offered to take them. YTA. If you want a day of silence, go somewhere that is silent. Don't expect everyone around you to participate in your random weirdness. YTA. Why didn't you just let her borrow your car? Why didn't you ask her or Google how long the drive would take? Why didn't you speak to her in advance about what you expected her and her friends to do on the drive? Why didn't you then speak to her like a normal human about your feelings about the trip? Why don't you just plan another day of silence to make up for this one not working out? Why is it on your wife and others to understand your needs and feelings when even before your day of silence, you have demonstrated an inability to critical think or communicate in the most basic ways? YTA. Offering to drive a car full of women on a social excursion when you're supposed to be taking a day of silence. You're literally the Eric Andre, Hannibal Buress meme. Bro. YTA. You were willing to take them to the beach. You could have lent your wife your car. If you don't trust her with your car, that's another problem. It is unreasonable to expect them to be quiet for an entire car ride going to the beach. I understand this day is important to you. But once you said you would take them, you sacrificed the day. Try again next week. The meditation and contemplation and peace you wanted went right out the window when you got mad. YTA. Why did you offer to take her then? Either tell them to find another ride and stay home or pick another day when she has her car. Question. Why didn't you just let your wife use your car or ask her if one of her friends could drive? Why did you offer to drive them if this day is so important to you? You kind of ruined your own day by your own choices. There were other ways they could have made it to the beach. You chose to step in and offer the ride. Not a great choice on your part, especially when you know that if you drop them off, they will need a ride back. YTA. For blowing up the next day when you had put yourself in the situation in the first place. YTA. You should have just let her drive your car. Or let one of the other friends drive their car. Then she would have been out of the house and you could have had your quiet day. YTA. Next time you want a day of silence, book yourself a hotel room and enjoy the heck out of it. We all need alone time. YTA. You didn't communicate your expectations before your day of silence. It's also a lot to tell your wife she betrayed you. I get it, her friends, and she might have been obnoxious, but betrayal? That's a little extreme. YTA. Why didn't you just let your wife borrow your car? YTA. It's not even clear from this question that your wife asked you to drive her. But either way, you told her you were okay doing this. It also doesn't sound like you asked them to be quiet or voiced any complaints during the day itself. Wanting a day of quiet is totally reasonable. But being angry when everyone in your vicinity doesn't adhere to your unspecified expectations isn't. Did you say to your wife, I will drive you and your friends to the beach as long as it's a short trip and you're all very quiet on the ride there? If so, then yeah, it was rude of her to ignore those conditions. But you just said that you'd drive her. How exactly was she supposed to guess that she couldn't talk to her friends on that drive because You were choosing not to speak? I want to be really clear on this. You are not tough for wanting a day to silently decompress. YTA for agreeing to do something you clearly didn't want to and then getting mad at your wife because you didn't enjoy it. And you're tough for saving up all your complaints until the next day when you could blow up at your wife. This doesn't sound like a religious vow of silence. If your quiet contemplation was already ruined, why couldn't you speak up to say something in the moment? Pick another day. Communicate clearly to your wife that you want it blocked off. And take some time to decompress. But it's absolutely unfair to blame her for not reading your mind on the particulars of what you want your day off to look like.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.